But if we want to be an expert in life skills, well, this would be one of the skills that's important, right? Like, all we truly are is a collection of our habits, right? Like, I don't have cavities because I brush my teeth 2 or 3 times a day, right? Like, I am not overweight because of my eating habits and my exercise habits, right? So all we are is habits.
For over 260 episodes, Duane Brummett and Allie Alberigo have been sharing how to take your martial arts school to the next level. Welcome to another edition of SchoolOwnerTalk.com. Now here's your hosts, Duane and Allie.
Hey there, Duane Brummett here with Allie Alberigo, SchoolOwnerTalk.com. Great to be with you guys. Allie, I cannot see you. There you are. Can you hear me? Yeah, you're muted. You're muted, Allie.
Okay, there we go. I was clicking the button and it just didn't unmute.
Gotcha. So how are you today, sir?
I am awesome. I'm excited about our topic, and I didn't realize how atomic it would be. It's explosive, right? Like I posted it on our group, and how many people, and by the way, what was really cool and how many people actually started reading the book because of our post. That was cool to see. So the authors should be really happy because we got a bunch of people to buy his book, but at the same time, so many people saying how great the book was.
Yeah, it's a really good book. And honestly, my head instructor, Mr. Bean, he's the one that turned that book on to me. He's the one that said, I should read that, the book. And so I'm like, okay. And he gave me the book for Christmas as a Christmas gift. Yeah. Great. So I had never heard of the book at all.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then just so people know, the newer book that we're reading, which I'm like loving this book, is called Upstream. And it was recommended to me by Solomon Brenner, who's going to pop on with us in a little while. He's a very, very successful school owner. And he's also read the book Atomic Habits, and he recommends it to all his people. I think he's got like 22 schools, like 40 or 50 employees under him, and he makes it mandatory reading. And then another cool thing is next week, I think, I'm not sure though if it's our group or with the other group I work with, I'm going to do an interview with Stephen Oliver.
You texted me and told me it was us.
Then it is. Forgive my memory. I'm just like all over doing so many things. So we have Stephen Oliver on, who also commented on how he made it mandatory reading, Atomic Habits, mandatory reading for all of his black belts and school owners to read. So I think that's pretty cool. But Upstream is the follow-up book that we'll do next month. So we'll review it. But so I'm excited about this, Duane. So what did you get out of it? I mean, I burned through this book, and I from my point of view, just so you know, every time I read something, I thought about me as a teacher, less of myself as a business owner. Of course, how I could be a better teacher, and how, of course, that would in turn make me a better school owner. But that's what I got out of this book, the habits and how to change them. So what were your thoughts on it?
Well, I will say one, some of the stuff, some of the information was not new, right? But it was presented in a way that I had some aha or awakening moments. Yeah. And isn't that true with information that you have part of a key, but then you don't have the total key until you read another book or something. Does that kind of make sense?
No, it does. And I want to thank you, Duane, because I've read thousands of books. You love to read. I love to read. And quite often you buy me a book or whatever, and I read it. And one of my best books that you've ever given to me was Never Split the Difference, right? By Phil Voss. And that literally made me tens of thousands of dollars and still making me money. So when you came up with this concept of doing like a book club of the month, I'm like, okay, that's cool. And then it became a little bit to me like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to read a book every month. And what if I don't want to read that week? Because there've been times where I just didn't feel like reading, right? But every morning I discipline myself and I wake up and I read before I go to bed at times. If not, when I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm reading and I pick up the book. So it's really helped me get back into the whole self-improvement dynamic of myself, in general. So I appreciate you for that.
Yeah, my pleasure. And, that kind of goes along with, obviously, habits, the atomic habits of, I like, what James, the author, James Clear, and it's funny, his name is Clear, right?
Right.
Get clear in your habits. But the habit stacking and, putting a habit, we got Solomon coming in right now,
Cool.
Putting a habit with other habits in order to make that habit a habit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he's going to wait till his audio connects.
There he is. Hey, sir.
Hey, how are you guys?
How are you? Good morning. Good or early, or before afternoon, right?
Well, yeah, good brunch time.
Yeah, exactly. So we were just talking about you. We were talking about the book. Thanks for coming on. I told everybody that you read the book as well, and you share it with your people and your team. So you're in here to just reinforce and chat about the book with us. So we were just talking about, Duane was just saying on the book, Atomic Habits, on how he has habit stacking you mentioned?
Yeah, I love the idea of habit stacking. Not that I didn't hear on different concepts on that, but again, it's just funny when you read something and then it actually clicks when somebody else tells you about it. It's kind of like the concept your parents told you the same thing over and over again, but then when your karate instructor told you, you thought it was gold.
Yeah,
advice from the person far away, right?
Same thing with your children, right? You tell them all day long, don't do this, don't do that. And then when somebody else, my students too, I'll bring a guest instructor in and the guy will teach something. And then people are like, oh my God, that's the greatest. Like, I've been teaching you that for 3 years. Like, why don't you see it? It's the funniest dynamic when it comes from someone else, right?
So Solomon, do me a favor. Can you just, so the listeners know, can you give us a quick background of you and your schools? And then I got a couple of questions for you about the book too.
Yeah, awesome. So thank you so much for allowing me to join you guys. We read this book in our organization, I think a couple different ways. We have something called Hit Team that we did. Anyway, about me. So I've been training the martial arts for a little over 30 years. Started our schools almost 27 years ago. It'll be 27 years a little later this year. We have 22 schools. They're all full-time schools with full-time people. They are, we own about half the real estate under the schools. We have meetings every single day. We're a pretty, I think, unique organization in that everybody's full-time in every one of our schools. So yeah, that's me.
All right. And then, so Atomic Habits, obviously this caught your interest, that we were reading the book and then sharing information about it. Why did you, make this a mandatory reading for your staff? And then from there, how did you make sure that they knew, kind of what you wanted them to catch out of the book?
So I use two filters for when I'm making something mandatory. And I also don't really police anything. So anybody who's watching realize that if somebody in an organization doesn't read it, I probably know, but there's really no consequence for not doing it, other than they're probably not as good in their life as they could be, sure, in my opinion. So the two filters that we use in order to make something strongly recommended or mandatory is, number one, will it help them? And number two, will it help them help their students? Right. So when they're talking to their students, will that give them, we always act like we're somehow experts, and we certainly want to get paid like experts, right? We want to get paid the same way a doctor, an attorney, or an engineer does. Well, they went through a lot of schooling to get there. And although we could say, oh, well, we got our black belts, awesome. But if we want to be an expert in life skills, well, this would be one of the skills that's important, right? All we truly are is a collection of our habits, right? I don't have cavities because I brush my teeth 2 or 3 times a day, right? I am not overweight because of my eating habits and my exercise habits, right? So all we are is habits. So giving them just another way of looking at habits, another way of looking at their life was good for them. And it makes them an expert in their world, which is teaching karate class.
You know what? I love that you mentioned the brushing of the teeth, because he mentions that in the book. I think by the way, I'm reading so many books, they're all kind of blending together.
I know. I printed out some summaries. Yeah,
I know, it's crazy because I'm like, okay, is it something I just read or was it in this book? But I remember he talked about how why is it that brushing our teeth, that's our habit, we don't do it without any question, yet there's so many other activities that are good for us that we struggle with? And why is the teeth brushing the most foundational in every culture right nowadays, right, that people just do without question? They don't miss it, they never, that kind of thing. So I thought that was interesting, and that's what I love, Duane, about what you said with the habit stacking, like, one good habit after the other, and how they lead into each other, so that it makes it easier to accomplish your goal, rather than just saying, I'm going to lose weight. Like a lot of people do that on New Year's. They kiss their spouse and say, this is my year, and by January 4th they're already off target and they're onto the old habits again. So I thought that was awesome. I thought that was one of the topics I really loved about the book.
Duane, I don't know much about you. Can you share? I'm sure all your listeners do, because you guys do this regularly, but I don't really know much about you.
Yeah, I bought my black belt on Amazon.com. No, just kidding.
Perfect.
No, I started martial arts when I was 17 years old, about a month away from my 18th birthday. So I'm 47 now. Just this past weekend, I tested for my 7th degree black belt. So that kind of tells you where I'm at. That doesn't mean anything, but you know what I'm saying.
You've been doing it for a long time. I'll be 47 in March.
Okay.
At the end, in like 6 days.
Perfect.
No, 4 days. 4 days.
Oh, yeah.
Happy birthday. My birthday was last month. I'm the oldest out of all of us. I'm 56.
So.
And yet you look the best, sir.
That's right. When I got to about 2nd degree black belt, the traditional style that I was in, I really found that there were, I hate to say it this way, there were holes. Like I really couldn't have. I was a great great forms person, but if somebody would have choked me, I would have been dead. If somebody would have brought me to the ground, I would have been over. I mean, so there was a whole world that opened up to me about 6.5, 7 years into my traditional training, if that makes sense. And from there on out, I was like, I'm not just I love the traditions, but I'm not going to be a traditional school owner. I'm gonna look for everything I can in order to make my students grow. From ground to stand up to in close fighting to weapons with regards to guns, knives, impact weapons, all those things. And then obviously teaching the character development alongside of, the self-defense piece with regards to, being able to be aware of your surroundings, know what's happening around you, all those type of things. So we're about 45 minutes south of Chicago.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
I've been to Duane's school, huge school, gorgeous, really well put together, clean, beautiful organization. Like I thought I did a weapons seminar there, and he probably had a few hundred people. And the funny thing, he took this whole unique marketing approach, didn't even put me on the flyer, but said we have a ninja, or guest, like he had a picture of a blacked out face, and it was like the secret person coming in, and people were like, he was packed to the hilt. It was a great marketing campaign that he did, and it worked out really, really well. It's pretty cool.
It was quite fun.
Yeah. So you know what, on this book, what I thought too was how you guys said before, like how habits shape who we are. And you said that we're nothing more than a combination of our habits, right? But what that of course could be very bad too, right? So how people have all these negative habits. They, I don't curse. And I find it unique because I hear it so much because I don't curse. And I was just at the diner this morning, and the table of 2 doors, I was meeting with my friends that we meet every Wednesday, martial artists. And like 2 tables over, these adults, like literally every 3rd word was the F-bomb. Like they couldn't complete a sentence and string it together without cursing. And I find that some of these habits are so destructive in our behavior. And people wonder why they're not getting anywhere, even in the way they think about, politics or about luck or about hard work. It's just very damaging. What are your thoughts on that? Because that was a big thing about the habits being who you are. How do we fix it? How do we correct it? What did you think?
I think, like, for me, you guys, I'm sure, know the frog and the scorpion story.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it all comes back to that, like who you just see yourself as being. And there's no habit that's going to change my life. There's no activity today that's going to change my life today. Like I can go, run 5 miles right now, but that's not going to make me healthy. It's running 5 miles over the next 5 years that will make me healthy.
Right.
Or eating or reading the right books or meeting with you guys. Like I was just jealous. You said like, oh, I have my karate friends for lunch for breakfast at the diner. I was like, and I've been meeting every day with karate people, but I was thinking, oh, I'd like to do that. But that habit one time is going to change anything. But over the course of a lifetime, being associated with those same people is probably the reason you don't curse. And if you
Yeah.
were just two tables over every day or every Wednesday, you probably
Yeah.
would curse, right?
Yeah.
Like it's the culmination. It's like compound interest, right? Like making a little bit of interest this, or people that say, oh, I crushed the market this year. Talk to me about 20 years. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like tell me how you're crushing it over 20 years, not, I bought Tesla, I bought Tesla stock and I happened to hit a home run.
Right.
Let's see how you do over, the long period. So like for me, a lot of it's just who you see yourself being. You see yourself as the fat guy, like you see yourself as a vegetarian, so you just don't eat meat. Like that's who
Right.
you are. It's
Right.
not, you don't look at the menu and you're like debating on chicken parm.
Right.
It's just not there to you. So it's who you see yourself being, like the frog and the scorpion. Back to that. Sorry,
Yeah.
I ramble.
Hey, no, listen, I've kind of, that's interesting because like lately when I read a book, I see it from two different personalities. And I was telling Duane this morning on that other book that I'm reading, but this book especially too, I read this book and for me, it resonated with me as the instructor and the school owner. Of course, I'm a business owner and all that other stuff, but whenever I thought of the habit stacking or the habit developing, I thought of how I would train my students to be better as students. Like even I'm sure you guys could be frustrated. You're frustrated with this too. It might probably happens at your school where kids don't know how to tie their belts. And then the parents don't know how to tie them. And they kind of like wrap them up and send them in. And then we fixed them. And so I started a belt tying challenge in my school. So like I filmed myself 3 different angles. And I'm like, we're doing this month and all the months after this, we're going to do a belt tie challenge until every kid 4 years old on and up and are going to tie their belts perfectly. And the pride these kids show just simply knowing how to tie their own belts, right? And the parents are like, yeah, my son Gavin, he's got it down. Show him, Gavin. Like they're proud too and it's such a mini little thing, but it all came from how do I, like, rather than just throw my arms in the air and going, this is just, never going to happen. They're never going to learn. I got out of that book. How do I change their habit? How do I make it into something fun? How do I stack it on a benefit and show the benefit? And that was something that I thought that I got out of it too.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
the belt thing is definitely frustrating. We go through like ebbs and flows of like anything else. If we focus on belt tying, they all can tie their belts. If we kind of like ignore it, pretend we don't see it or don't see it,
Right.
and 3 months later or a year later, we're like, why are all these kids' belt look ridiculous? What is happening around here?
Exactly.
And then we have a meeting with our team and we talk about like we gotta nip in the bud every day until if you do it like for a little while, of course it works. But again, just the habit of doing it the right way. It's our habit that really affects that, right? Because they don't know how to tie it and they're never gonna know how to tie it. We did put a video, we have like a video pinned at the top of Facebook, like on our friends and family page, for our students only. And like one of the videos is like, here's how to tie your belt. You have to, if you're a professional, you need to do it.
Yeah, and that's what I love about our app with Spark membership, the app. I have it pinned to the top of my app. So it says belt tie challenge. So when they open up the app to reserve a class, they got to scroll down to get to their class. So they see it. And now their kids, they're like, hey, here's the phone and here's the app, click on the video. And it's really helping create that culture. You're going to say something, Duane?
Yeah, here's what I'd like to do is, they're in their trial, they finally sign up, right? They enroll. And, and then I present them with their uniform and say, all right, great. Now I know that we've been working on belt tying, but in order to come into your next class, you have to have your belt tied correctly. You cannot come in to that class until your belt is tied correctly. And no, mom cannot do it for you. That's what I'd like to do.
Yeah.
We've done stuff like that. Like you can't balance a class unless like the instructor gives you the okay.
Yes.
And then of course, if it's not good, of course they're on their knee doing it. And we try to say like, all right, mom or dad, come over here so you can see how it's done. So next time, we try and get the parents, buy in and get their involvement, of course. Yeah. But again, we've done exactly that. But when we stop doing it, then it doesn't happen anymore.
Exactly, right. What you focus on expands.
Well, you know what? Thinking of this though, this is exactly why I got this out of the book. I'm like, how do I? And by the way, I'm reading the book you recommended. Next month we're doing the book that you recommended, which was Upstream, and I'm loving that book. So I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, the problem is X. how do we change that problem rather than throw our hands up in the air? And quite often we feel like we're swimming upstream on certain things. So I said, I'll just make this a challenge. Everyone loves a challenge. And now, and listen, not everyone's buying into it. That's all we're talking about. So that in the end, everyone is tying their belts. And that's important to me to make sure that happens. So I love what are some of the things, like the difference between habits and goals? Like he kind of flips it. It's not really a goal, because goals are one time or you accomplish it and you're done with it. But he talks about it. The author talks about like the difference of creating a habit versus setting a goal. Any thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah, of course, like a goal is, something, a goal is just a way to, I think, ignite a habit, right? Like a way to like get the habit going. But I can have a goal, I want it. It's the actions every day, and then getting past the lag, right? Like you start saving money in the beginning, it doesn't seem like anything's really happening. Where you start like eating healthy or exercising, it doesn't seem like anything's happening. So you're always like lagging your habits, but you have to be consciously aware, like, okay, I'm saving now, nothing's really happening, but 10 years from now, the savings compounded as well as, investment return, there's going to be a significant amount there. Or, I stopped eating sugar, even a month into it, you might feel better, but 5 years into it, you're really going to see the effect, right? So I think you have to like be aware of the lag, and the goal is kind of like what you want to be, but it's the little tiny habits that really get you there.
And Duane, I mean, Duane does health coaching for people through his school, and he helps so many people. Like I look at the pictures where a woman lost 100 pounds or 80 pounds or whatever it was, and I guess it's the same concept, right, Duane? It's about changing the concept of what you think is health, or creating habits. Like, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, in regards to it all.
Yeah, well, one of the things that we really stress is that our program is really a personal development program with an eating component, really. And it's not about dieting; it's about learning the healthy habits that are going to sustain you for the rest of your life. And so, we talk about that. Getting your body healthy is actually easy. Getting your mind healthy, that's where usually most of us have the challenge. And so for me, it's about showing them how to get their body, getting their mind healthy along with getting the body healthy at the same time. But what was it? Zig Ziglar always said that a message can travel around the world in a matter of seconds, but sometimes it takes, years before it penetrates the last 3/4 of an inch, which is your skull, so that you finally get it. And one of my clients, I took this from the book, by the way, from the Atomic Habits, was she was having a lot of trouble getting into her life book, and part of the life book is the educational component with regards to our system, and so I said, well, is it that you don't want new information in order to change habits? And she said, no, it's not that I don't want it. I just can't find time to do it. I said, okay, so give me your routine that you do in the morning. She gave me her routine. She gets up at 5. By 5:15, that she's always sitting on her favorite couch with a cup of coffee. And I said, well, what do you do normally? She says, normally I'm on my phone scrolling through Facebook. I said, what if we were to take a habit that you already have, getting up at 5, by 5:15, having your cup of coffee, sitting down, and read your life book for 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. That's it. Don't read it any more than that.
Right.
And she's like, okay, yeah, I can do that. I said, okay, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to write down. And again, I took this from the book, write down that, I'm going, I am going to get up at 5:50, or I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. By 5:15 p.m., I'm going to be sitting in my favorite chair, reading my life book for 5 minutes. And then I said, all I want you to do is just text me when you're done. She goes, yeah, but it's like it'd be 5:20 in the morning. I said, don't worry, my phone's on silent until 6 a.m. anyway, so I won't even hear it. But when I get up at 6, I'll be able to see. And she's been doing that every single morning. And now she's graduated from 5 minutes to 10 minutes. She's reading it now 10 minutes, and so she's now created that habit of sitting down in that chair, reading that life book. And so we stacked a new habit with an existing routine that was already there.
And I love, that's kind of like what he talks about in the book too, as his second law, and that's making it attractive. So making it interesting to the person, how they could see it as being something they want to do. So thoughts on that?
No, I think it becomes attractive. Probably the first day she did it was not attractive because she's still addicted to Facebook, right?
Yeah.
And that's pretty powerful attraction. But I'm guessing over the course of 21 or 30 days, when she starts seeing results and she starts thinking a different way, right? Like that's when it becomes like she starts to identify. He says, I'm reading this. It says outcomes are what you get, right? That'd be the goal. Processes are what you do. Identity is about what you believe. And it really starts, we're saying habits, but I think it's really identity. It's who you believe you are will, be everything, right? Like whether you're an exercise person or you're a business person or just a karate guy or whatever.
Yeah. Well, isn't that
And I
true?
loved what he said with regards to, the two people that were quitting smoking, right? When he talked about you got two guys that just quit smoking, right? You turn to one of them and you say, "Hey, would you like a cigarette?" And that guy goes, "No, thanks. I'm trying to quit." So he's still identifying as a smoker, but a smoker who's trying to quit. You turn to the other one and you say, "Hey, would you like a cigarette?" And he goes, "No, no." He says, "No, thanks. I'm not a smoker."
Right.
Exactly.
And that's such a huge mind shift. I know it sounds really not different, but when you put it into context, it is totally different. And I really loved that. I can't tell you how many times I've used that now, just even in my, with my health coaching one, but then even in my classroom as martial artists, I say, "Are you guys martial artists or are you just doing the martial art?"
Yeah. That's one of my big statements. And people don't, quite frankly, know how to answer that question most of the time, right? But yeah, it's about who you are. Like it's like a school owner. Sometimes they're almost embarrassed to say that's what they do for a living, or they're looking to, they say it, but they're almost anticipating on people thinking that it's not a noble career. And I'm super proud to say what I do. Like, and people are envious.
And Solomon, I mean, look, that's kind of what you're saying is that is our identity, right? When I say no thanks, I'm not a smoker. I mean, that's our identity. I can remember being in high school and at 16 years of age, went to my very first party. I got so drunk that I was like, I am not doing this anymore. I'm not a drinker. And so every party that I went to after that, because I still went to the parties with my friends, I would get, "Hey, you want a drink?" And I go, "No, thanks. I don't drink."
Exactly.
I didn't identify as a drinker. Anyways, Solomon, go ahead. You were going to say something, I think.
Nope. I don't think so.
Okay.
No, but I think that is the crux of it. I think I was going to say something, but I forget. Shihan said something, then I was going to say something, but I forget. So
okay. Well, you know what? The third law in the book too was pretty easy and to understand because he simplified it by saying, "Make it easy." Right. And quite often, like I had just worked with one of my coaching clients, right? And I asked him to do short-term goals, long-term goals, of his school. It's a brand new school. He's just reopening. And my God, his goals were like so lofty. Like I want to have, $80,000 a month in billing volume, 400 students. I go, why don't we start with a short-term goal and try to build from there? Because if you don't hit those numbers, those lofty numbers, quite often we get disappointed. So I'm like, let's start small and build on it. Let's make it easier. Do goals that you can achieve. Like you're not going to lose 60 pounds overnight. You could lose 5 pounds in a week or 10 pounds in a week. So let's start with stuff that's attainable. What are your thoughts on that? And in regards to, schools, running a school, or just in general, what are your thoughts on making it easy?
One of the things that we started doing, and I think it's super similar to this, is giving people a range. So instead of like a small goal and a large goal, it was like, instead of saying, all right, we need to enroll 12 students this month, we would say, you need to like about, 11 to 13 students. And if they got 11, they wouldn't feel like a complete failure. Because I feel like that's, half our battle with all of our people is them feeling embarrassed or discouraged. Even though in my head, I'm thinking, oh, you got to 11, it's not 12 what we really wanted, but that's still pretty solid. We're good.
Yeah.
Right. But like, they're feeling like a disappointment and a failure, and that's no good for me either, right? That we need for them to feel good about themselves, to keep doing well, and to feel like a success. So for them to feel like a success, we try to give them a range. whether it's weekly or monthly for enrollments and stuff like that. So I think it's pretty much exactly what you did. I think we're just phrasing it a little bit differently.
What do you think
Oh,
about
whoa,
that,
one more
Dwayne?
thing, making it easy. Oh, I know what I was going to
Yeah,
say. Some people say, like, especially, in the beginning of the year, they talk about their health things and they say, all right, you know what? I'm used to waking up at 6 a.m. every morning, but I'm getting up at 4. I'm going to run 5 miles, and then I'm going to hit the gym, and then I'm going to do this, that. And they could definitely do that for a couple of days, but then it's
right.
going to fall apart. There's no way. But like, for me personally, my goal is I have to work out a little bit every day. Now,
Right.
yesterday I worked out in the morning. I had this like class thing that I did like on video, and then I went swimming after that. That was a big day for workout for me.
Yeah.
Today I did my workout in the morning, which is a 20-minute workout. That's all it is. We'll see what happens the rest of the day. Maybe I'll go for a walk with my daughter. Maybe I'll do a little dance class, like whatever. But
Right.
like, if I was trying to get up every morning at 5 a.m. and do something insane, Saturday I ran 6 miles last Saturday. I can't every day. I'm probably not going to do that,
Right.
but every day I do something. And it's a cumulative effect of, if I ate cookies every day, that'd be a problem. It
Right.
could go either way.
But
Although
that
I
would
like
be,
I like the story that he told about, the sales guy who I think it was paper clips or something that he had in a jar, and he had 2 jars, and he wanted to make 120 sales calls every single day. So he put 120 paper clips in one container and then empty. And so every time he'd make a sales call, he would take it out and then put it in. And then you could visually see that accumulating throughout the day. And then he knew exactly where he was at. So he had some tangible visual cues and motivation, now whether you use marbles or paper clips or whatever. I just thought that was a really neat idea. Or the one that he talked about, somebody that wanted to do, X number of push-ups in a day. That's how many marbles they put in the jar. So that every time they would do a push-up, they would move that over. And so by the end of the day, they've done 50 push-ups. Now, whenever they did it. But so I thought that was a really neat idea, those small little tangible goals, but you can actually visually see them. And I'm sure we probably do that with ourselves and our students, right? Solomon, you were going to say something.
No, I was just going to say that it probably gives you a dopamine drip every time you get to move a paperclip or a marble. It probably gives you that you don't even realize it, which is
it's
probably
just like
awesome.
yeah, well, that's all, it's about short satisfaction experiences, right? Like I actually used to do that with my students to correct negative thought. I wanted to come up with and package it and sell it and have like 3 really nice mugs, and then have white marbles and black marbles. And it was a recorrective thought training process where every time you said something like your boss walked in the room, you're like, he tells you what to do. Oh yeah, he's an idiot. You'd have to take a black marble and put it in the empty cup. Every time you had a positive thought, you'd take the white marble. At the end of the day, you'd tally it up and see whether you had more black than white. And every time you recorrected thought, I would give people, like on week 2, the opportunity to have a negative thought, but recorrect it and say to themselves, oh, he's not really that bad of a guy. He just wants to get his job done. And then you could put that white marble in. And it was the training of the mind to try to shift that perspective. And that could be with diet, it could be with negative thoughts, it could be with anything, right? And I think that we don't do enough training ourselves with our own personality to get that done.
Solomon, let me ask you this. How many times have you read the book? Because I've only read it once thus far, and I feel like I have to reread it because there's just so much in there that I got to get back out of it. So how many times have you read it?
I read it once. I listened to an audio summary on YouTube, which is like one of my favorite things to do. And I think I've been in 2 book clubs with it. We do something called the Master's Class, where we take people with no martial arts training at all, people that are already in our sphere. They're like people we already know, like, and trust, that have like amazing character. They might be, and anyway, they go from like 0 business skills, 0 everything, and they pretty much, I'm not exaggerating, it is a full-time job to them. I mean, they're working out every single day, they're reading books, they're memorizing stuff, and it's 9 months, not guaranteed, but if they do it all, 9 months they're running a school. And this book is part of it. So we revisit it every time we do one of those classes. So I don't know how many,
awesome.
we probably been another 2 or 3 times.
That's great. I love it. So let me jump into, like, the other one was in the fourth law. The cardinal rule was to change behavior. And I think that's, recorrective habits or getting rid of a bad habit or, that kind of thing. And I loved, what do you think, Duane, about what he said about that on how to, and there was some value stacking. It all goes back to, the different changes of the way you set a goal or a habit and so on. Do you remember that portion?
It's escaping me at the moment. Is that the one they talked about shock therapy? I'm just kidding.
One of the stories.
No, I'm kidding.
one of the stories. I loved his stories though. Like the stories were really good.
Yeah.
It's just like, a lot of the things that people were business owners and billionaires and millionaires and how they were able to shift their behaviors, and so what I loved about this, and you'll probably remember or even have your own insight, that, the cardinal rule of behavior change was finding a way for it to mean something to you, right? Like I'll say to my students, and it's still difficult for me. I'm like, okay, we got to be in a really deep horse stance. We want to make sure that this is what it looks like, and I'll demonstrate it. And then they'll all do it. And then I look over here, half of the room lifts their horse stance. I look over here, they lower, and they're only doing it temporarily because I'm asking them to, but they're not connecting. Like I asked one of the guys recently, I said, why didn't you come to the seminar? He goes, I didn't think it sounded interesting. And I'm like, but I told you 10 times that it was good for you. Yeah, I know, but I didn't really have an interest. And so it's all about how we can impress that person to understand they need to change the behavior. They have to do it better. They have to do a better stance, snap their, whatever it may be, right? So that was the whole concept of getting to understand the rules of behavioral change and why it was good. Yeah. Thoughts on that?
I don't think you can make anybody change anything. I think it's, they all do it in their own time and, their own desire. Not to get off topic, but I read a book about the book was called like, You Can't Motivate Anybody. And the crux of the book was everybody is 100% motivated. They're just not motivated to do what you want them to do. Mm-hmm. So the woman who sat on her couch and watched, she got up every morning at 5 a.m. That's impressive. And she was motivated to sit on the couch and have her coffee. That's, my brother plays Fortnite. Of course, to me, it seems like a waste of his time and he seems unmotivated. He seems lazy. He's on there with all of his friends, doing research, doing things like watching YouTube videos, learning. Like, he's doing a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
It's not just, to me, it seems idiotic, but like for him, he is motivated. So a lot of times when we think of somebody as not motivated and we need to change their habits, we're just thinking that their habits are wrong in our head.
Right.
But, we're not going to make any changes until they decide that they want it to be different, not us. And I think, that becomes as an instructor, that becomes the problem for us, is because we might see, that.
That's not me. It's someone.
That was me.
Oh yeah. So that's interesting though. So I guess the only thing that we could do, and that's what I loved about this book and this as a teacher, why is it important for the parents to have their kids tie their belt and learn how to tie it themselves? I had to put enough information in front of them with supporting information that make it so that they understood that it was a benefit for them, and to show that pride. And when the kids learn, they're beaming and they have a sense of accomplishment. So I guess no matter what we're trying to do, whether it's in getting a school owner to have a better business or whether it be a student to be in better shape, we have to find a connection to their desire, whatever it may be. And we have to find a way to connect.
It's got to be about them. It's got to be about them, not about us, which we all know that, but it's hard sometimes, I think, to like, come on. The example that I always use is also like, I don't think there's anybody on the planet that does not know that smoking is bad for them.
Right.
Right. Like, I don't think anybody's going like, wait a minute, there's research on this.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Or soda isn't good for them. Like, I don't think anybody's like confused.
Right.
Right. But like, they have their own anchors, their own desires, their own, it's like their own stuff. Right. And everybody's, and by the way, we think right now, like we're somehow better, but we're not. Like you talked earlier about the woman again, said she didn't have time. She has the exact same time I have. Nobody has any different time. Everybody has the exact, but what about, if you look at wealth, Warren Buffett, I have the same amount of time he does.
Right.
But somehow he's worth $100 billion and I am severely not worth that.
Right.
So he just does different things with his time. Like he just spends his time financially more wisely than me. He clearly does. So it's not a lack of time. It's a lack of, me being motivated to do what he does. I mean, it's not like I couldn't do it. I'm guessing I probably could if I could figure out if he showed me, if I could follow him around for a couple of weeks, I could probably do the same thing he does.
Yeah. Well, isn't that interesting? I'm sure you guys have both had people say to you, "Oh, you're so lucky. You got your own business and your own school, and you're so lucky." And I'm like, lucky, like nothing ever, my life has never been about luck. Like I've been tortured with always going backwards before I could go forward. Like I'll get a refund check from the IRS for $5,000 that I didn't expect. And the very next day I'll get a bill for $7,000 from, someone else, so it's like the Seinfeld episode. I'm always like, it's opposite. He always had luck. I always had it the opposite way. But that's interesting that you say that, though. It's we all have the same ability, we all have the same opportunity, yet half the planet thinks they're disadvantaged, while it's like that. I put up on Facebook,
I don't think we all have the same opportunity. I don't think that.
You don't think that, though?
I think we all have the same amount of time, but there's no way we have the same amount of, I mean, first of all, country you live in is a giant, significant thing. I mean, there's just, Warren Buffett also talked about, they talked to him about taxes, and he said if he was a twin and in the womb, the way that one of him would be born in the US and one would be born in any other country in the world. And the way it was decided was based on how much tax you were willing to pay. He said he would bid it up to 99% for the opportunity the US presents, to be in any other country. So although our system is broken and there's issues and, we can all complain about all different things, it's still the best thing going.
Sure.
As far as like opportunity. And so I don't think, and there's all kinds of different ways to talk about this, and we'll probably get ourselves in trouble, but there's no way we're on an even playing field with, like and by the way, like, I don't think I'm at the top rung necessarily, right? Like, I think someone who was born with more physical ability, like, so here's an interesting story that you guys can make fun of me about. So I had the opportunity to golf with a golf pro. I met him, and he said he was a golf pro, and I thought that meant teacher. So I, just like said hi, we talked to him, and I walked on, and Jacqueline, my partner, was like, "I can't believe you're not talking to that guy some more. He's a golf pro." I was like, "Oh, that means teacher." I walked back to him and I said, "When you say golf pro, what does that mean to you?" And he said, "Oh, I'm in the British Open next week." And I was like, "Oh my God, that's amazing." So of course we talked more because I'm just a bad person. And a few weeks later, I went to his golf course and I played golf with him.
Wow.
And, for me, like, I was scared out of my mind. I'm not a good golfer, but of course I like opportunity. So I play golf with him, and I'm playing super well for me. Like I'm almost shaking and sweating on every shot because I'm so embarrassed about how good he is. And like halfway through, I'm playing out of my mind good. And I say to him, "So let's say like all I did was practice. How long till I can get on tour?" His response was, without even blinking, "Never." And I said, no, you don't understand. I mean, like, money's no object. All I do, I'll get Tiger Woods' coach. He only coaches me now. He lives in my house. I just practice. He said, the answer is you'll never be on tour. And I said, why? He said, you have no physical natural ability. He said, I see your swing. You never be able to make it. And I was like, what are you talking about? But if I practiced, he's like, practice is going to help, but you have no natural ability. He, on the other hand, got a set of golf clubs when he was 12 years old. His mom and he said he was furious with his parents because he never wanted the golf. Thought golf was a dumb sport. He got 5 lessons from his golf, like a golf pro gave him 5 lessons. On the 3rd lesson, the guy said, "You're complete natural. All you have to do is practice now. You can be on tour someday." That was the end of it. He said he never really practices. He said, like, yes, he practices, but not like a Tiger Woods practice. Right. I said, how do you think you could do against Tiger Woods? He's like, no matter how much I practice, I can never be that good. He said, that guy could beat me any day, every day, all the time. I never have a chance. He said, I'm good enough. He said, I'm good enough to be on tour. He won 1 tournament his entire life. Bye.
Thank you.
But the idea is that we're not all on equal playing fields, like intelligence levels, being born into wealth probably helps, even though we say it doesn't. Like, we're just not all equal. Like, we need, I do think we all have gifts, and it's up to us to find the gift and use it, but we're all certainly not equal. Like, people born in like tough situations. And, if you look at somebody who's born into poverty, even in this country, and all they see is this is probably more political than it needs to be, but this is my opinion. If all they see is disaster around them and their only choice is to do illegal things,
right?
I think you would do illegal things too. Like, that's all there is to do. Like, right. The only person successful is doing something wrong. Okay, well, that's my only option. Compared to us that, I went to college and my parents provided. Like, I wasn't born rich. I have 5 sisters, 3 brothers. My dad worked for the city his entire life. Like, I wasn't born wealthy, but like, I got to see things around me that were fine. Like my parents sent me to karate class. Yeah, I got to see
Yeah.
people doing good things. So I don't think we're equal, although that's not this book.
Although I agree and I disagree to a certain extent on certain things, but I think that like everyone has the potential, and you might not be natural ability, but like you
But
said,
I think that's what Solomon's saying, is he's saying that everybody has their own abilities, their own unique ability. And you didn't say that word, but that, to borrow Dan Solomon's
100%, yes.
term, you have your own unique ability. But within the environment, you're not always presented the opportunities to discover those things. I mean,
so would that be mindset then, really? Like, let's just say we get an inner city kid,
well,
that
nature
becomes
versus
an internet
nurture.
billionaire, or like, a rap star, while all of the others are pushing drugs and killing people, like whatever it may be. Doesn't matter, race, color, creed. Like, what's the difference? Where do you see, like, where do they get a glimpse of the potential? Like, this just an off the cuff idea. Like, what do you think? Like, what is it? Is it somebody that inspired them?
If the world was exposed to Anthony Robbins type messaging, if everybody was, I don't know if you guys saw, but he just did this whole like event on Facebook, Anthony Robbins.
Yeah.
And he had, who's the guy from Miami, the super famous rapper? What's his name?
I forget, but I remember seeing who would.
Like, he always says like 305, like, his area code.
Yeah.
He's awesome. He said that when he was a little kid, grew up very poor, like moved house to house, but his mom always played Anthony Robbins tapes in the car, and he hated it. He said, hated it, would beg to put on music. And his mom was like, when you own a car someday, you can listen to what you want. It's my car, listen to what I want. And he said, like, although he hated it, the message got into his head deep.
Right.
And he started to realize like there's more to the world than what he saw, and there was potential. So I do think what we do helps, but the idea of saying, this is my opinion, the idea of saying that everybody starts on the same level playing field, to me seems absurd, because if you were born into the Bush family, that's not the same thing as what I was born into. You got to go to like Yale or Princeton or something as a legacy, and your family's super wealthy, and you're like here's another good example. So I was talking to a friend, and we were talking about, I have a little daughter. You guys can see, there she goes.
That's awesome. Hello.
So we were talking about like what schools to go to, and my friend's kids were going to like a private school, and my sister's kids go to another private school. And he said that the school my sister's kids go to they are designed to go to Ivy League. He said those kids won't even know anything but Ivy League. Mm-hmm. He said like the entire process, like from kindergarten to 12th grade, is designed to make them an Ivy League student. Like every little piece of it. They have their own Shark Tank for the school, where the kids get to invent stuff and then pitch like people to, they all have to come up with entrepreneurial ideas in like 8th grade or something. Like everything about it is designed to get them into Ivy League. He said literally they will know nothing but Ivy League. It won't even be a choice. Not everybody gets that. Like, that's crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you have to be born into a family that gives you that.
Yeah, I guess it is about how you're raised and thoughts that you have.
Not that anybody can't do it. I think they can. There's plenty of people that overcome, Oprah, and, overcome challenges. Steve Jobs, overcomes all kinds of issues. He's adopted, this, that, and the other thing, and he can't, quits college, still becomes Steve Jobs. Like, people overcome things, but you're starting at a different level.
Another Tony Robbins story, I think it was from Awaken the Giant Within. He interviewed 2 twin brothers, and he interviewed one brother, and he's, the questions are all the same for both. And anyway, long story short, after the questions, the guy said, well, what do you expect? It was due to the way I was raised. And that guy was in prison for double homicide, right? Then he interviewed the other brother, and the guy's like, what do you expect? It's the way I was raised. And he was a brain surgeon. So 2 of the same upbringings, but it was just about mindset. It could be flawed mindset. It could be genetics. It could
I think they had like an alcoholic parent or something, right?
Yeah,
and one said, I would never become an alcoholic because I learned not to do it. But the other one was like, well, my dad is, what am I supposed to do? I just have
exactly. Yeah. So the same exact situation. One was, whatever it was, right? So it's always that concept of how we take things too. But then again, that's training. Like, my daughter, she's 21. She thinks way differently than her friends because she's been around me her whole life with the motivational stuff and the Tony Robbins and the way I raised her. So she does think differently than the majority of kids her age,
Yeah, and I think this kind of, I'm going to wind this into what we're talking about with regards to atomic habits. those little hinges swing big doors. It just all depends on what the little hinges are. And
Right.
so if you are taught little hinges that, are cracked and rusted and, have all this bad influence, then the door that it's going to swing is going to be a bad habit in most cases. And then the opposite is true, I think. Now, that's stereotypical, but I think it also is, I think it's provable with regards to statistics as well. More people that have, the majority of people that have more opportunities end up doing more with their life, and people that have less opportunities have a tendency to do quote unquote less with their life. But I think it's all based upon the information that they're given. I mean, I know that when I read this book, I had several aha moments, and that was only based upon the new information that I got, or it was said in a way that it was, oh, I've known that, but I just needed this one little key to finish that off.
Yeah. Yeah, Duane, I thought that was interesting too. Like, like there's a TV show out now called Billionaire something or other next door, and it's about billionaires that put themselves into extreme poverty, but just with their mentality, how they're able to work themselves out of it real quickly, not because they have a rich friend that could loan them $1 million, but more about the educational and the knowledge they have on how they would think differently than the other person who's in a bad situation. And that happened with Morgan Spurlock in a show that he did called 30 Days. And he'd be put in no money, he'd get $100 in cash. He'd be put in a hotel with his wife, and they were broke, and they had to get food and pay and get rent and find a job, and how they were able to pull themselves out based on their education. And not everyone has that. It's not even education, because education is a small portion, like, the public school education, but common sense, business concepts, investing, all those things has to be a learned skill.
Yeah, the proper information. I know we're coming up on time, but and I want to respect everybody's time. Solomon, with regards to Atomic Habits, what are some things in there that we have not discussed that we can discuss that you definitely want to hit point wise?
I think we did a great job of staying on target and not going off the rails, and you helping us stay there, sir. So I think we're good.
Okay, all right.
So Duane, what do you think? Close on, and we'll do a final statement thing.
Well, look, the reason I asked you, how many times have you read the book is because I really, truly believe that I have to go back and reread it and reread my notes based upon it as well. And then I want to create some action steps for myself out of that. And then my thought was, man, my leadership team, my storm team, I want to create some things from that book. I'm not going to rewrite the book. That's not what I mean. But I think I want to create some small little ideas that I want those teams to learn from without having to read the whole book, just because some of them are kids and I don't know that they're going to be able to pick it up. So I got to put it in a fashion that they're going to be able to digest it with some actionable ideas and some actionable thoughts to go along with it. But wouldn't it be neat that, kind of like the book, what is it? Make my bed or make your bed.
Yeah.
Just taking some of those concepts from Atomic Habits, introducing that into, the teams that I already have in place with some more actionable plans for them, and to see where that actually goes, I think would be really neat to do. So that's my plan with regards to the book, is to reread it, reread my notes, and then come up with some actionable ideas as well, so that everybody grows from it. Although I am going to, I've got a new hire that is going to start next week, and a new program director. She's going to get this book, but not initially.
Yeah, I just bought it from my friend, and Amazon shipped it to his house, and we'll see how he how he likes it as well. And it's funny, we had another book, Make My Bed, that you mentioned, right? Make Your Bed or whatever. We had started this little thing, which is kind of funny. I read the book and I wrote a little note inside the book, and I passed it on and shipped it to a friend of mine. And then he was supposed to read it, write a few little notes, and ship it to another friend. And it got to the third stop, which was one of our good friends, and it never left it's still sitting on his shelf. He didn't read it. He's like, I got to get to that book. I'm going, you realize that was 5 years ago that I sent that to you, that kind of thing. And it just, certain people are just not going to do it. Like you said, you can't motivate certain people to do certain things, but yeah, it's interesting. So, all right. So in closing,
Solomon, any final
I could
input?
not go above and beyond the wisdom that you guys just shared. I love it very much. Good luck with your new hire there. Is it an outside hire or inside hire?
It actually is an outside hire. This will be the first time that I've really hired from outside. But I could not pick, honestly. I had a lady from inside, a lady from outside. So I had my head instructor do the second interview. And, I'm just going to lean on his wisdom because he's going to be in charge of her. So,
Is there any way, I forget who it was, but one of the, motivational people, I'm trying to remember who it was, but anyway, he said that interviews are all a waste of time. The only way to really understand anything is that they have to just do the job. That's all there is. Just do the job, see how it goes. That's the only real way to do it. Is there any way, I'm just throwing this out there, to let them both do it and then pick the best one, or open it, or if
that is an outstanding idea. That's a really good idea.
Allie already told me that last week on Friday. Here's the reason I'm not going to do it. I did talk to another gentleman. He owns, I think, 7 or 8 health food stores. And he said, you're trying to build a team. And by having a competition between both of them, that takes away from the team building. He said, I think you just need.
What if it's not a competition? It's sort of a competition in your eyes, but like for me, like the only assets we truly have are the people. That's all there really is, right? So if they were both good, I would open up another school. Like it would just be like I would keep them both part-time for as long as I could, but like talk to both of them about like, what their goals are. And if one of them had like an ownership mentality, which is different than a working mentality, then I'd be like, okay, great. Now we have to find a head instructor to match with you, but at least we have half that, we have half of it solved. And I would try and keep them both. I mean, to me, it's no different than any other, if you're investing in your retirement account, this is more valuable.
And I had said, Solomon, to Duane too, that I said, listen, they're as much interviewing us when they come on board as we are them. And I always thought like I had the upper hand, I'm going to hire you. And quite often I would do an interview with people and they wouldn't follow back up with me, and because maybe I didn't impress them, they didn't like the school, they didn't like me, so everyone's interviewing each other. But I also said it is a challenge. We want to see how they perform over a period of time, because people are great interviewers, they're great, they have great resumes, they could talk the talk, they're professionals at it. My ex-wife, she's still my best friend, and my daughter's mom, she works for a Fortune 500 company and she does human resources. She finds out people are falsifying their resumes. Like they'll literally say they know how to do Microsoft Word and website design, and when it comes time to their job, they don't know any of the stuff, and she has to let them go. She's like, you lied about everything. So they're hoping that they could have figured it out in the week that they had, to get in there. So I told Duane, I said, sometimes you could have both of them working and no competition, but see how they do over the course of 2 weeks, and then say,
yeah, I mean, it could just be exactly right. It could just be like, hey, I love both of you guys, and our most valuable thing are people. So I want both of you guys, and they also, I think as head instructors, we make a lot of assumptions for people. And sometimes just by asking them, it makes a difference. Like maybe they would want, which would be ideal for you, I think, to do like they each work 20 hours a week kind of thing. Like, they have like job sharing, which is super popular now because they have other things to do at home or whatever. And then if one does flake out, you have somebody that's already doing the job. She just fills in that time. Like it's no big deal.
Like he's frustrated now. And like we just threw a wrench.
Do you have one school?
I have one school.
Well, listen, if they're both awesome, do it for a couple of weeks. If she's willing to relocate, I'll hire her. We always have a spot. Like literally, like somebody just came to us from a local school and they said like, Mr. Silva sent them to us and said, he wants more opportunity. And the truth is, all of our schools have full-time people, and very rarely does anyone ever leave. And I was talking to one of our other guys. I was like, what should I do with this guy? Like, he seems nice, but we don't really have a spot for him. And he's like, literally like one of our instructors was like, I'll pay him $50,000 tomorrow. He's like, I'll do it. He's like, done. He can work for me. He's like, I'll just open up another school with him in a year. He said, when I find the other person that, it's just a great investment. Like, I think if you think they're both awesome, if one of, sometimes you're also hiring people, I think, because it's like, they're the only person standing there, which is never good.
Well,
but if you're in an opportunity of two good people.
Duane had this massive funnel set up for people to actually go through. Like, they had to jump through like multiple hoops just to even get the interview, right?
Yeah. So they first had to do a survey, fill out some basic information. And at the end of the survey, they had to type in the word Bluebird and then hit submit. So then I get that.
And don't do that, I'm sure.
No, because I had probably close to 18 people, start the process. And then I only got down to actually 4 face-to-face interviews. So from Bluebird to send me back your resume with pink elephant in the subject line, to then scheduling a time to do a phone interview with me that if you don't show up on time, I don't even answer the phone, to then showing up to a physical interview. And then we only did 2 people did a second interview. So
I have a question. So I know we're still recording. The caliber, you want somebody to jump through a lot of hoops, right? So that's a certain kind of person that's willing to do that. Is the job equal to that caliber person? Like, sometimes we want someone that that should be making $150,000 a year, but we want to pay them 45. You know what I mean? It's like that caliber. You want somebody that's like a professional, but we're not going to pay them like a professional.
Well, I just want them to be able to follow directions, and if you can't follow directions, like if you can't call me on time, then forget it.
I agree with that too.
Right. But I do think, though, too, the point of entry was a lot more difficult. But that's okay, though. You ended up with 2 people that actually made it through the funnel. And out of the 2, now you have to pick one.
No, apparently I'm supposed to hire both.
Well, no, you don't have to. Stop. Have you guys read Decisive, the book?
No.
No.
So Decisive is it's like this book, amazing. And one of the things it talks about is most times when we make a decision, we're making it over 2 or 3 options. But the reality of it, there's 12 other options that we could be choosing from, but our brain doesn't think that way. So you just said you have to choose. You don't have to do anything. Like, they can work part-time. You could do one and put the other one on hold. Maybe one is only the Saturday person. The other one's during the week. Maybe and by the way, the one that's already part of your school, like, to me, I always think that's better because there's an instructor relationship, not just an employer relationship.
However, it was a parent of kids, right?
Yeah, but they still, they still look at you, as sensei or Mr. Brahmat. You know what I mean? They're not looking at you as like Duane, the karate guy that gives me a salary, right? There's a different relationship feeling.
Agreed.
I was talking to a friend who had like 50 karate schools. So to my head, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And, his response was, Solomon, you don't want this. I was like, why? He said, because I know what you already have. And, everybody calls you sir, and they're like honored to be in your presence and they want to learn from you. He's like, my people, I'm a service provider. It's what have you done for me lately? And there's no relationship. He said, I try to build it, but they're just business people that are using my systems. Right. And it's not the same feelings. And when he told me that, I was like, yeah, you're right. I don't want that. Like, it'd be cool to have 50 schools, but that's not the life that I want. I want like this culture. I want this like family kind of thing where like everybody's rude. People are calling me for like, hey, I'm thinking about negotiating on this house. Can you look at it for me? You know what I mean? Like, we're all like connected, not like I'm just I'm just their accountant or something, or I'm just their franchise guy. Yeah, so if both could, I would get them both. And I know you're crossing your body language right now is making me feel like I'm making you uncomfortable, and I'm so sorry.
You don't have to apologize. No, I've been struggling over this anyways, but I already called the lady and told her she's got the job.
Yeah, but you gave her the full-time position, or?
It's not a full-time, it's only part-time anyways. Right. So I guess I could call the other one. I haven't told her anything yet. I could say, yes, you got the job, but I'm hiring both of you.
Right. Yeah. And it could be looked at either as, in my opinion, as a trial membership, trial basis to see how they do for both them and you. And you may find out that they have distinctively different qualities that could benefit your organization. One might be incredible at sales, while the other one is more of a bookkeeper. So like you might find that you have
or a teacher.
Or teaching could be, or something like that too.
And Solomon, just to kind of give you some
kid, they could, the one woman, if she's like has kids, and also the woman who had kids in the program, she's selling from her heart for you. You know what I mean? Like she paid for it already. She paid for it with money and her time and her kids' lives. Like I always think, to me, that would, and I don't know, she might not be a good fit. I totally get that also. I'm just saying, like, from my thoughts, like they would be like the other things. And then she could also turn into like a little ninja for us, like 3 to 6 year old instructor. Like she's super into it. I would also, we don't have anybody that doesn't train in the martial arts. Like I wouldn't be against hiring somebody from the outside, but they have got to be training. Like they have got to be like they have to, it's like driving a Ford and selling a Chevy. Like, how does that work?
Right.
Well, what kind of car do you have? Well, I don't train here. Like, I think like they have got to be training, and if they don't, I don't think it's going to work.
Right.
They've got to like believe in the Kool-Aid. You know what I mean? They got to like the system.
All right. Well, Duane, we're going to leave you with that.
I just made your life much worse. I'm so sorry, sir.
You don't have to apologize. It's not worse. It's just options.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And you do have a few, like I said before, that was my initial advice as well. See how they both work out. And like I said, you might find 2 incredibly beneficial employees to your organization. So, but anyway,
now I got to go back to her. And say, oh yeah, by the way, I forgot to tell you that I'm hiring both of you. You
don't have to say that. You didn't tell her you weren't hiring the other person. You don't have to say anything. It could just be an assumptive thing. We have 2 enrollment directors. There's schools with 2 enrollment directors. You don't have to go back like, oh, sorry, I didn't tell you this. It could just be like, oh, and let me introduce you to your partner on the deal.
Right. Okay. I agree. All right. Well, we'll fill you in next week on what Duane decides.
Oh, I can't wait.
The saga continues. This is a great cliffhanger for our next episode.
I love it.
Yeah. So Solomon, nice meeting you. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations again on that beautiful child of yours. Amazing.
Yeah.
We talked about this. Duane's got some children that are older in college and graduated, and right.
Yeah, my kids are 31 and then 27 and then 18. And then I have 3 grandchildren as well. So
he's a granddad. So you got this beautiful little bundle of joy that literally, like we talked about it last time, and my daughter's right now in the kitchen. I don't know if she can hear me, but literally still to this day melts my heart. Every little thing that I do is for her and my fiance. So congrats on that. Enjoy every moment of it.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
All right, Duane, I'll talk to you soon. You guys take care. Bye. Sayonara.
Hey, Allie, before we go.
You're still live.
I know, that's fine. I'm fine. So I do want to remind everybody that, if you're looking for Facebook ads, reach out to our Facebook guy, right? To Gus Lopez with Lead Hunter Media. You can go to leadhuntermedia.com. Also, Spark membership is our membership software that we use. So check them out. And then eliteinsights.com. That is Allie's website company. So eliteinsights.com. And of course, if you're looking to add health coaching into your martial arts school, give me a holler. Let me know. I'd love to help.
Yeah, and wait, one more. We just got a new expert council member, sponsor coming on with us from Academy Kings, and he's a new sponsor now. So this is our first episode, and he's all signed up and ready to go. Soon you'll be seeing the commercial with him and getting some plugs in between our broadcasts. So I'm super excited, and we have some other sponsors / expert advisors that will be coming on with us too in the near future. So thanks for all the support, you guys, and thanks for checking with us and letting us know that you're interested.
Right. And then go to schoolownertalk.com. Again, schoolownertalk.com to listen to all of the other broadcasts that we had before, because this is our 271st or 72nd episode.
Yep, so. Absolutely.
All right. Have a good day, Allie.
All right. Take care, bud. I'll see you soon. Good luck with the hire.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.